And during the few moments that we have left, we want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
Have you said in your heart that you will sit on the Mount of Assembly? Have you said in your heart that you will ascend above the heights of the clouds? That is a cult of personality. Straight from Isaiah chapter 14. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Rapture, Ruckus, where we cover the rapture in the news.
Welcome, everyone, to the program. It is good to be with you. We are your host, Matthew Miller and Joe Mizidla. And, well, once again, they have not let us down. I'm going to read from the Mirror, as it is. Let's see, when was this article? Looks like it was with the 1st of January is what I'm seeing. But it's entitled End of the World, Biblical Prophecy Predicts Rapture in 2019. Really big letters. Don't book that 2020 New Year party just yet. It looks like 2019 is the end of the road for humanity. Bad news, everyone. The apocalypse is coming this year, and we're all doomed. Apparently, December this year will see God return to earth to judge humanity. In his book, End Times and 2019, the end of the Mayan calendar and the countdown to Judgment Day, author Dave Montaigne says that there's plentiful evidence that suggests that this year is the last for humans. It's all about the stars, apparently. In ancient visions, biblical writers and races like the Maya all described a particular alignment of stars. And using computer models, we can see that this will happen in December this year. Go down, and on his website, Montaigne says that a 7-day period starting on December 21st and ending on December 28th will mark the end of humanity. December 21st, 2019, when the 7 years end and the week of the heavenly wedding begins. December 26th, 2019, when the bride receives the ring from the bridegroom. December 28th, 2019, the wedding ends on Judgment Day. The final judgment will see the Earth's poles switch. He's written another book about that, and a new world will be born. Montaigne has previously predicted that the Antichrist would come to Earth on June 6, 2016, and has previously claimed that President Barack Obama was Lucifer. And Montaigne isn't the first person to claim that races like the Maya foresaw the end of days. Ronald Wineland claims that the world will end on June 9th this year. Sadly, some people have stopped listening to Wineland so intently after his predictions of Armageddon in 2011, 2012, and 2013 failed to come to fruition. Let's see. Grigory Rasputin, the Russian mystic who died in 1916, claimed Jesus would return to Earth on August 23rd, 2013. That also appears to have not been accurate. And all of these predictions about God's second coming also seem to impose a very linear existence on the Creator. Why, after all, would a being who sits outside of our concept of time pick a specific date to snuff out human life on Earth? So what does the actual science have to say about the end of humanity? Well, we know that the sun will grow hotter toward the end of its life, eventually expand, consuming the inner planets, that it could be as soon as 1 billion years, but a maximum of 5 billion years. Hence, a humanity-killing asteroid is predicted to strike the Earth roughly every 500,000 years. There's also a good chance that human life could be wiped out by a very large volcano explosion, such as volcanic activity is said to happen roughly every 50,000 years. Or the more likely possibility that humans will invent some kind of ghastly superweapon using nanotechnology that will kill us all. Looking at the state of the world right now, it certainly feels like people will be their architects of their own doom. And so it ends with that. It's interesting that it gives these predictions, failed predictions, lets this gentleman state what he thinks is going to happen, and then turns full circle back to, I guess, a scientific approach, or what science or scientists are saying today, anyways, or some. So I thought that was kind of interesting that they basically are poking fun at these individuals towards the end of this, and saying that basically, they keep missing this date, and it seems strange that the Creator would put a stamp on the end of humanity. And I'm not sure where that individual gets the idea that all humanity is going to be wiped out. God never says that he's going to wipe out everyone. Interesting article. What are you thinking on this one, Matthew?
Well, it's hard for me to concentrate to the end of this one for several reasons, but we get straight away to back to 2012, I guess, back to the Mayan calendar. And I like how he gives highly detailed dates here. Now, this does kind of amaze me that, there's a couple of things we can discuss. I actually listened to your private broadcast today. I listened to 13 before I went to work, or 12 or 13, and then the next one on the way to work. And I didn't get to finish that whole broadcast, but you brought out some pretty interesting things that are in stark contrast to this. I mean, we have an itinerary here. This is absolutely amazing. We've got December 21st. Okay. That's when the 7 years end. December 26th, December 28th. We have an itinerary of what's going to happen. This is absolutely amazing. This is in stark contrast to the simple fact that Jesus himself don't know when this is going to happen. And fortunately, there's a good reason for that, actually. There's a very good scientific, mechanical reason as to why, at the point when Christ said that, he couldn't know. Now, for one, he had not ascended unto heaven, so we can reckon in our minds that he probably had limited information. No doubt about that. Perhaps that's in play. Although I don't say that. I'm just saying that that's a perhaps. But when you understand the nature of the event that took place after the fall and the subsequent flood and everything that happened to this planet mechanically, and the simple fact that God comes right out and tells you that there's a dividing of time. Now, if there's a dividing of time, well, that really does mean that time's going to be different. But that's such a hard concept to relay to people because it's so absolutely terrifying. This is bone-chilling fear, is what this is. We are so comfortable in our constants, Joe. We have an environment that God has provided with us that has absolute constants. Okay, these constants are like, all scientists know that if you take 1 gallon of water and apply so many BTUs of heat to it, that it will boil in a said period of time. It will also take an exact measurement of time for that water to get back to room temperature, which is 70 degrees. I mean, this is a constant. It's what keeps us comfortable. All these constants, Joe.
Right.
We know that, it might be cold today, right? No problem. Spring's coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have known this from the very first moment you opened your eyes. It's a constant, and it keeps you comfortable. God is talking about a time that an hour will no longer be 60 minutes. He's talking about a time when he's so mad that everybody has stated for so long that he cannot do what he says he could do in a 24-hour day on the first day or the second day or the third day. Going so far as to say there's no way he could have created the heavens and the earth in 144 hours. He's so mad about that all of a sudden a day's no longer 24 hours. I mean, this is bone-chilling fear. But it absolutely blows me away that even though you could say, there's a lot of people out there and a lot of heresies spilling around that Jesus at that point was only a man.
Mm-hmm.
And, but you have problems in the text because the angels don't know. And that's what the angels are for. That's one of their main functions. Well, actually, per the first chapter of the Bible, actually.
Right.
So it amazes me that this guy has an itinerary going on.
I thought that was pretty odd myself. I thought that was pretty amazing that you would have just going back over Matthew 24:36. Christ the King makes it. That's a huge statement. And it's one I think that it's one I think that gets blurted out. When somebody makes a false prediction, but I kind of hear it almost used in like a nanny boo boo sort of, sort of thing. But I don't think we actually put the thought into what the Lord Jesus Christ was getting at and what he was wanting us to see in that very verse of that. That's astounding to me that the angels don't know. I'm not surprised that we don't know, but to me that makes me take pause when he says that the angels have no idea. To me, he's alluding to a much grander situation than you would originally think when you just brush over that text. But when you really sit and just think about that and think about how powerful, the angelic host are and the sphere of authority, that's pretty mind-blowing.
Well, let's get back to Genesis, shall we? Let's just take a serious read of this verse.
Okay.
It's it's pretty popular, actually. Genesis chapter 1 and verse 14, using the New American Standard Bible. Then God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens, and to separate the day from the night." So they are clearly, from their inception, created for the division of times. Okay? Sorry for that interruption. And let them be for signs and for seasons. Now, you and I already talked about that this is one of the constants that makes us comfortable. It's cold right now, Joe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Spring is coming, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we have one fold of time here. This is a quanta of time. This is a secula. This is a temporal secula. And it is a season. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But then he goes further. And for days. Now, your day is comprised of how many hours?
24.
They set that. Okay, you have to come to a reasonable understanding of celestial mechanics. Joe, let's take the star that we're coming from. There is a star in the heavens that you can set the calendar off of because it rises at the same time every year, as does the star we're headed to. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we're not stagnant in the heavens. We're actually traveling. Now, these two stars are pretty important, but do you understand that this applies to every single day? When we're supposed to be doing the daily sacrifice, which is done at twilight time, you mark off the evening and the morning stars. They always took note of them. Forever, actually. Forever and always. Amen. They would mark off what constellation they was in, yada, yada, yada. So, literally, they have to be on time every single day. And then he goes one step further, and years. So, how could the angels not possibly know what day it is? But Jesus goes even a step further, and it's just bone-chilling to think about, nor the hour. Now look, let me read this to you one more time, Joe, and know and understand in your heart, ladies and gentlemen, if an angel can't set the chronology, don't understand the chronology for a day, you're in a world of hurt. Then God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens, and to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years." And Jesus just came out and said, oh, they not only can't do that, they cannot set the chronology for one day. That means the hours are in consternation. What Jesus just actually said when he made that statement was that God alone would be able to understand the temporal mechanics involved. So that means that even the angels are not going to have now listen very carefully to me, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to have constants to work with. Do you understand what that means? It means that the celestial bodies are very mechanical. They don't understand variables very well. So that means that one single hour during this day that this particular event is referenced, they're not going to be equally divisible into 24. Now, that being the case, let me state that one more time. If the angels themselves find them in a temporal secula that does not have constants, they will absolutely not be comfortable, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
So, if they're hurting, you can just imagine where you're going to be at, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to be in a world of hurt. I mean, Joe, have you ever went out like deep sea fishing?
No.
You haven't, so you've never gotten seasick?
trying to think. Car sick would be like the closest, but
No, that ain't nothing like seasickness. Yes, it is motion sickness, but, well, at least as far as I'm concerned. I've never really got car sick, except when I read when somebody else is driving, then I do. But when I went out first time out on the open sea, oh my goodness, that was clearly another experience. But you're going to have that multiplied by about 1,000 times. So you can just imagine what it's going to be like. But it's just absolutely amazing that this gentleman thinks he can actually set an itinerary for it. And I find that just absolutely mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. And let's... Well, I just have to hand this back to you. Your further thoughts, please.
yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think it's almost like, like they said, they almost kind of sum it up for you in the last scene before they kind of veer off. From what, sadly some people have stopped listening so intently after the predictions Armageddon in 20, this Wineland gentleman predictions of Armageddon in 2011, 2012, and 2013 failed. Oh my goodness, that's to me that's insanity. I don't know how this keeps coming up. I don't know how this even stays alive. It's amazing to me. And I know that the secular, media and the secular, people that, do not claim to be Christian. It's hilarious to them. They think it's hilarious. They really do. They think it's funny. It's a joke. And to me, that it's extremely sad because, studying the Bible, reading the Bible, spending time in the Bible is a beautiful thing. And what God has to say is absolutely precious. There's no price on it. So, when this teaching takes something that is so beautiful and makes people want to turn from it, that's upsetting to me. It's upsetting that this individual kept trying for 3 years in a row. After the first year, I think I would have been so embarrassed I would have hung my head, but it seems that it's almost an agenda that's being pushed as well. I think we can say that, but it's just amazing to me that this keeps going. I keep hoping that it just wake up and it's gone. No more, you see the headlines, no more Rapture teachings ever. I would love that, but, it just keeps getting pushed and you keep seeing individuals that, they want to have their name in lights and, or they want to be like some sort of superstar. And man, it's just not, it's just scary. That's dangerous and it's sad. It is sad. So, you have anything else, or do you want to?
Oh yeah, I've got to bring up one more thing.
Okay.
The only correct prophecy in here is given by the author, and you already brought it up, but you need to understand, ladies and gentlemen, what he's implying here. He says that this author isn't the first person to claim that races like the Maya foresaw the end of days. Ronald Wineland claims that the world will end on June 9th this year. Sadly, some people have stopped listening to Wineland so intently after his predictions of Armageddon 2011, 2012, and 2013 failed to come to fruition. So he's saying, very politely, and I'm surprised how politely he stated it, that this is a prediction, this is a prophecy for the author in question. And he goes on to put the cherry on top that he's even going to become like Rasputin, the Russian mystic. Surprisingly enough, I'm willing to bet my bottom dollar that prediction absolutely comes true. This author is doomed to fulfill the very same thing that happened to this Mr. Wineland, whoever he is. But we have to talk about this, Joe. This is classic. This is classic.
Mm-hmm.
He also predicted that the Antichrist would come to Earth on June 6, 2016, and that President Barack Obama was Lucifer. How did that work out for him exactly?
I guess I missed that.
It's kind of too late now, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Don't. Oh, no. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen. Let's get a little bit serious, because this really is serious. How many of you were following people and are still following people that stated this and supported this? And oh my goodness, they would repost and repost and repost and all kinds of videos and audio and literature claiming that Barack Obama was the Antichrist. And you're still following them, and you're still listening to them. And they're still telling you all about the rapture, aren't they? But you've been entertained away from that now, haven't you? You've forgotten about all those. Now, it's a different season, right? That was basketball season. Now we're in football season, I guess, and we got a new quarterback, right? Right?
I guess.
I mean, they're so consumed with this POTUS, they don't remember everything that was stated about the last POTUS. And yet they can't realize that, well, this is a sports game.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it, Joe?
Oh, yeah.
It is. And the same exact people going on and on and on. I mean, endless entertainment in the name of Christ. They call this Christian stuff, right? I mean, you could probably find, 1,000 brand new videos just today about the present POTUS.
Mm-hmm.
And, Joe, if I would have been following those people that was going on and on and on and on and on about the last POTUS, and then all of a sudden he just went away. He just went away. Now, don't you remember them saying that there's not going to be election, there's not going to be election because they're going to, right before the election, so we can't get a new president, Barack Obama's going to declare a state of emergency. You remember that, don't you?
And the president before that one, too.
And did that happen?
Nope.
Were they liars?
Yep.
And they're still listening to them. Yep, 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 says Ducky. Yep, yep, yep. They're still chasing their tree stars. You remember The Land Before Time. Good cartoon. They're still chasing the tree stars. They're little duckies running around saying, yep, yep, yep.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh, yeah, I know all about it.
Okay.
So, I don't know. It would be concerning to me. I mean, Didn't these people realize what these entertainment artists were going on and on saying there wasn't going to be an election? Barack Obama was going to declare a state of emergency to suspend the elections, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't.
Oops.
Oops. And it's really not funny.
I know, but it's not.
Right now, instead of studying what the Bible actually states, they're still, I don't mean following them, they chase them, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
That's worrisome. It really is. So, back to you.
Did you have any more to throw in on this one, or you want to?
No, this is clearly a dead issue. Outside of this prediction that's going to come true. That much I do guarantee. But yeah, let's move on.
All right. Well, the Express does it again. Let's see. I'm looking for the date on it. I did find it this week. I don't know why I'm not seeing it. There it is. I'm sorry. December 30th. I think is what it's, December 30th. 2018. So right at the end of the calendar. Let's see. This one is End of the World. Will the Rapture come in 2019? Biblical prophecy reveals all. The Bible indicates that the rapture could come at any time, and you will not be accepting it. Documentary reveals, let's see. For every Christian, the goal is to experience the rapture, the moment when, according to Scripture, Jesus will take those who belong to him up to heaven to be with him eternally. This is part of the series of events described in the book of Revelation that will occur during the end times in John 14:3-4. Jesus addressing his disciples saying, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. Where I go, you know, and the way you know. Christians believe this means there is a way to go, a way that leads those who walk on it to be received to Jesus and to gather with him eternally. They add that God has not given the world indicators or any signs to tell us the end is near. The Bible is unclear about when the rapture will happen, and even Jesus is uncertain. In Mark 13:32, he says, but of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. In Amazon Prime, The Kingdom and End Times, the documentary suggests God is very clear about Matthew 24:36. The 2016 documentary reveals the Bible says that the angels do not even know when the day of judgment will be. I just lost my place. Mark 13:32 mentions the fact that Christ himself did not know when the end will be. In the show, Don Blackwell questions why the Lord says that the angels do not know, as Christ himself did not know the day of his return. Okay. Peter 3:10 adds that tell us that the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night. Mr. Blackwell explains that a thief does not give you a clue or when he's coming. He doesn't say that it's going to be at nighttime or if it's going to be in the month of October. It is then revealed that the rapture will be an absolute surprise and you will not be expecting it. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's take a look at this, shall we?
Yeah.
Shall we just do this? Let's just do this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's find out when the marriage of the Lamb takes place, and then what happens after that. Let's go to the best place to find that out. Because God does not have a problem, nor did he ever have a problem telling us. Revelation chapter 19 and verse 7. Let us rejoice and be glad and give the glory to him, for the marriage of the Lamb has come, and his bride has made herself ready. It was given to her to clothe herself in fine linen, bright and clean, for the fine linen is the righteous acts of the saints. Now, let's stop and talk about that for a minute, Joe. You realize that it's just plainly stated that she was given?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know anything about this time frame? This would be, well, the turn of time, actually. Well, let's go back, I don't know, 2000 and, let's say, 19 years. Do you know how a bride would make herself ready?
Off the top of my head, no.
Well, because it's the same way your wife got herself ready.
Oh, right.
Did she go out to the outhouse?
No.
No. She was set aside a special room, right? And oh my goodness, this horde of women was in there with her, right?
Right.
And they all watched her get dressed, and I mean, literally, she had girls that was literally grabbing single strands of hair to make sure it was put in the right place, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You can bet your bottom dollar that's exactly what's going to happen to you, Joe. Yep, and that's actually what he says. He says that you're going to be given the wings of a great eagle. Ah, yes. Operation Eagle's Wings. And God's going to do exactly what he said he was going to. He said he was going to gather you together under his wings, correct?
Correct.
Now, he said that about 2,000 years before the time in question. But anyway, so that's exactly what he stated. And he also states in the book of Revelation that with these wings of an eagle, you're taken to a place that's been prepared for you by him personally.
Yep.
Okay, all right. So we understand what's going on so far. So let's just get on with the text. Verse 9. Then he said to me, all right, blessed are those who are invited to the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he said to me, these are true words of God. Then I fell at his feet to worship him, but he said, do not do that. I am a fellow servant of yours and your brethren who hold the testimony of Jesus. Worship God, for the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. Verse 11, and I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse, and he who sat on it called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and wages war. His eyes are a flame of fire, and on his head are many diadems, and he has a name written on him which no one knows except himself. He is clothed with a robe dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of God. And the armies which are in heaven, clothed in fine linen and white and clean, were following him on white horses. From his mouth came a sharp sword, so that with it he may strike down the nations, and he will rule them with a rod of iron. And he treads the winepress with the fierce wrath of God the Almighty. And on his robe and on his thigh he has a name written, King of Kings and Lords. Then I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried out with a loud voice, saying, to all the birds which fly in mid-heaven, come and assemble for the great supper of God, so that you may eat the flesh of kings, and the flesh of commanders, and the flesh of mighty men, and the flesh of horses, and those who sit on them, and the flesh of all men, both free. Oh my goodness. Lord have mercy. Both free men and slaves, and small and great. And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies assembled to make war against him who sat on the horse and against his army. The beast was seized, and with him the false prophet who performed the signs in his presence, by which he deceived those who had received the mark of the beast and those who worshipped his image. And those two were thrown alive into the lake fire which burns with brimstone. And the rest were killed with the sword which came from the mouth of him who sat on the horse, and all the birds were filled with their flesh. Revelation chapter 20. We could keep reading. Of course, Satan is bound, and thrones are set up. You're having one problem here, Joe. You know what you never see? You never see Jesus go back to heaven.
Nope.
And I just read it to you, jot and tittle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what's going to happen, and don't expect anything else to happen, just what he just said. So, this is a fact, that the relocation to a place prepared for you by God, so you can, well, you realize he just came out and told you exactly what you're doing during that time. You're getting your garments white, right?
Mm-hmm.
With righteous acts and the whole 9 yards. He told you exactly what you're going to be doing for this duration of time. Then he gets here, and it went into great detail to describe, you see him, literally crack the upper atmosphere, correct?
Correct.
He never went back to heaven. And he never goes back to heaven. Now, if we were to keep reading, we see that he sits right here on the late great planet Earth, rules for 1,000 years. Satan is freed for a time because he don't have any other scapegoats he can play, so he has to do the dirty work himself this time. And then God comes down. Did you realize that? That God actually comes down. If we kept reading, that's what it says.
Mm-hmm.
So the rapture, ladies and gentlemen, what you call the rapture, that happens at the end. That happens as soon as he hits the atmosphere. So if you're thinking that he's going to take you to heaven like these articles stated, you've been deceived. That's not what God ever said. He states plainly in the text, you will be changed when he gets here. You will meet him in the atmosphere, in your environment. He never says you leave that inhabitable environment. He never says you're taken into space, as you call it. Never said that. You never leave the upper atmosphere. You meet him there. You're changed there. You're given what a lot of people call a resurrected body there when he gets here. But he don't go back to heaven. God never said that. He stays right here and rules for 1,000 years. So what has got you so scared? There's no reason for that. And you were just told illicitly why. You all know that you're going to be the bride of Christ. Don't you know that all of the parables mentioned by Christ the King speaks of these very events? Of course the bride does not get prepared in the outhouse or in the living room, for Pete's sakes, Joe. This is common. I don't care where you go. Go ask the Chinese. Go ask the Germans. Go ask everybody, Joe. It's common knowledge what the bride does before the wedding. She goes into pride. Oh, my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
There's many prophecies about this, Joe. And he comes right out and tells you that you're supposed to go in and hide yourself for a little while. Close the door while my indignation runs its course. He's talking about not Jesus, Joe. He's talking about himself.
Right.
And he comes right out and tells you. So there's this, argument over, well, if there's no rapture, we have to go through the tribulation. No, that's not what he said. He said he's going to come here and prepare a place for you to get ready. I just read it to you. That's exactly what he said.
Right.
So we're even given a length of time that this is, after chronology is obviously set on its proper course.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was just looking at. The very first sentence there. The Bible indicates the rapture could come at, they give a reference to time once again, and we, discussed that on the first article. But once, I guess, how do I describe that? That time is reestablished, well, then we should be able to calculate.
Well, Joe, of course you are. I mean, I'm sorry. Now, you know what? I get too anxious because I'm just so excited about what's going to happen. Because I know.
Mm-hmm.
Because God clearly put the promise that the Spirit of truth would come and tell us what is to come. And I know what it is, so I'm excited about it. So I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish your thoughts.
Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine. It just, we had talked about the angels, basically only God the Father being able to calculate what, well, none of them are going to know what time is for a event or for, well, when he stands up and his judgment. After that, after been taken to the place that has been prepared for us, and well, time starts again anew I'm trying to think of how to describe that in the best way. Well, I guess we go back to the days of Noah, and we now have a new year and hours per day, then we would be able to calculate the return of the Lord Jesus Christ and know exactly how much time as the woman to prepare herself for a brideship.
Well, she's not the only one getting prepared. Why don't you read for me Revelation chapter 19, verse 14. I already read it once, but it was staring you right in the face. Just read that verse. Revelation chapter 19, verse 14. Let's find out who else knows.
See, and the armies in heaven, with clothes of fine linen, white and clean, were following him on white horses.
You said white and clean.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, they had time to get their garments ready. You didn't catch that?
Mm-hmm.
Joe, after you've been taken, after the bride goes into her private room and the dress is like, look, dude, that dress is protected better than the golden Fort Knox. You realize that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody brings out the dress and lays it out and they, unwrap it and it's like wrapped 4 times.
Right.
So you know all this, right?
Yes, sir.
And the ceremony has a date, right?
Mm-hmm. And
by God, you better not be late, Joe. Right?
Right.
Okay, right. So you realize he just told you that, the angels and Jesus both know.
Mm-hmm.
You already know that now chronology is set in place because you know that 1/3 of the day and night's been struck, right?
Correct.
So we got 16 hours in a day.
Yep.
They know that. Also, you're told that there's exactly 42 months in 1,260 days. So without contestation, God the Father has stated that during this time, there will be exactly 360 days in a year, correct?
Correct.
Well, this is how all of the armies of heaven, the angels, were able to assemble on time and be here.
Right.
Here. Let's go back to the beginning, shall we?
Okay.
I mean, we need a fresh start, right? Let's make sure. We already stated that God's already told them that after chronology gets set, what's going to happen. So let's see if this rings true. Genesis chapter 1 and verse 14. Then God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons, for days and years." Any questions?
None. So
you're sure that not a single angel's going to be late. all the armies of heaven, that's the host of heaven, they're all going to be assembled and have on their clean white robes, and they all assemble and come here all at once.
Right.
Now, they obviously can't know anything in between this time and that time, but you can't, Joe, it's kind of like having a stopwatch. But you can't push the button on the stopwatch until you hear the start gun, right?
Right.
Joe, look. You did drag racing, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what's the first thing that goes up on the scoreboard whenever the race is over? They put up there how quick they did this quarter mile, right? You do know that, right?
Yeah.
You do realize they can't start the time until the green light. You know that, right?
Right.
I mean, you intimately know this, correct?
And
it's the same way for horse races or anything. You actually can't start the stopwatch until the start gun goes off. God has already told everybody. Now, in this one case, Jesus isn't exclusive to this. The angels aren't exclusive. We are not exclusive. Everybody knows this, that the sixth seal event, as detailed in Isaiah chapter 24, and the very first chapter of the book of Asaph, by the way, God already told everybody when the start gun goes off. So as soon as that start gun goes off, then you can click. So it really does make sense. So you should already know why the Bible tells you that you're given the wings of a great eagle and taken to a place that's been prepared for you by God. Now you know why. Now you know what you're preparing for. But you really already knew it because you already read those verses and chapters before I ever told you that, right?
Yeah.
So why do both these articles say that Jesus is going to come back and take us to heaven? I am kind of confused, and I really would like your personal commentary on that.
Oh, goodness. Why do they say? I don't know. Once again, to me, this is one of those things that nobody questioned, or we've lost the, I would say in the last 150 years, or seemingly losing the ability to think rationally or question certain things. One being this Rapture teaching that, I mean, the first article, there was, I don't know how many failed predictions. And then what it says versus what we just read, what God actually just said is completely, contradicts. It's completely different, but what God said absolutely makes sense. I think the reason that this keeps going is, one, it's a fear that, they're not. Let me state it this way. It's a fear that if there's no rapture, then they're going to go through the Great Tribulation. But they're not reading and understanding and believing what God actually wrote. So if they turned off the videos and everything else and just read it, I don't know, 20 times, I guess, until maybe it takes that many times, I don't know, until it starts to sink in that's what he's saying actually makes sense, and that he's going to take you to a place that he's prepared for you so that you can make yourself ready for the day of the wedding. But it just seems like it's not taught that there has to be some sort of super escape plan or a science fiction sort of spin on it, and that's the only conclusion I can come to. It seems to me it's more of a science fiction story than anything that I can. It's the only way I can relate to it. It just seems to me like a science fiction story.
I don't see any other better way to put it. I mean, I agree with you. It's science fiction fantasy. Science fiction fantasy is what it is. It has elements of both science fiction and fantasy. Those different genres rolled up into one. But, it's just amazing that these verses, they poke me in the eye. They literally poked me in the eye. I mean, he come around and told you, by the way, the host of heaven, or the armies of heaven, whatever you want to call it, the stars that we read about, in Genesis chapter 1, verse 14, they're all going to get together and have their garments ready for time to come back. And he just told you that, by the way, now stop the bus. Oh my goodness, you don't see it, do you, ladies and gentlemen? You really don't believe God's word. You really don't, in your heart of hearts, you don't believe a word he said, do you? When I read it right to you, I read what she was doing. It said she had prepared her garments with acts of righteousness, with yada, 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 yada. I'm sorry, but once time is reinstituted and the angels are able to push the button on the stopwatch, then you're going to have seasons. Then you're going to have... So she knows. She starts getting her garments ready. And he didn't have a problem. And you don't believe him, do you, ladies and gentlemen? You don't believe him. When it's plain to the text and we're just reading it in English. I mean, so none of you ever realized that he told you this for a reason. Why do you think he said this? For the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. I really don't understand. I mean, he just told you that she was getting her garments ready and white. Now look. This is the purpose of the 1,260 days. This is the whole purpose why he's even told you there's going to be 16 hours a day and 360 days in a year. Listen, and for once in your life, believe it. Let us rejoice and be glad and give the glory to him. For the marriage of the Lamb has come and his bride has made herself ready. It was given to her to clothe herself in fine linen, bright and clean, for the fine linen is the righteous acts of the saints. You want to know why they're able to say that? Because this is after Korah's rebellion. This is the whole purpose as to him turning right around and telling you that, by the way, the armies that come with Jesus, the angels of heaven, they have clean white garments too, because both of them had the wherewithal to understand that the start gun had been fired. God, who sitteth upon the throne, had pulled the trigger. And this is... I don't understand why I do not understand why you believe the people who told you emphatically Barack Obama was the Antichrist. They emphatically told you that there was never going to be an election. Nobody was ever going to be elected. We were going to go, and it just goes on and on and on and on and on. And still you listen to them, and you listen to them rather than what God himself says. But yet you call yourselves by his name. You call yourselves Christians. When he had no problem. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, when you read the Bible, he's expecting you to believe what he said. It uses the same phraseology. It was given to her to clothe her. Look, whoever you are, wherever you're at, your mother really did hear the start gun go boom, and they went into that secret chamber, no matter how poor you are, she might have went into the master bedroom of the house, or maybe she got married in a church and she went into a Sunday school room. I assure you, your mother knew when it was time for her to go into her chamber and start getting ready. And God was just expecting you to know that, for Pete's sakes. It's just you don't believe a word that comes out of his mouth. You're too busy watching entertainment videos, listening to the entertainment news, and you just chase right after them. I mean, you don't follow these people. You don't share their posts and their videos and their audio. No. You chase them. But you're not gonna like where it is that they're leading you. Because I haven't done anything special. I am sorry. I wasn't reading from the Matthew Miller translation. Yeah, I can tell you what this says in Greek and Hebrew. But I'm sorry, I was reading from the New American Standard Bible. It's just you never believed it. You never believed it. You surefire believed in your heart that Barack Obama was the Antichrist, though. Joe, back to you.
Oh, goodness. Well, I think that was very well said. I don't have any more thing to add. Did you have any other articles or anything else that you wanted to continue with?
No, I only had 2 barrels, I'm afraid.
Okay.
And, old faithful Coach guns. They still sell them. Do you know they still sell the old Coach guns? Yep.
Right.
Yeah, I pulled both triggers.
Gotcha. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, the entertainment industry did not fail to provide us with more science fiction fantasy. Can't say this enough. I'm such a huge... I love getting together face to face, even over the internet. I have a blast, but face to face with others that really want to understand what God's Word says. Pen, paper, notes, ask questions, a lot of questions. Turn off the entertainment, the videos, you really don't need to line their pockets with another dime. You never did. It's always been right in front of your face. You just need to put in the time and actually, like Brother Matthew just said, just believe it. Just believe what he wrote and spend some time with him and just believe it. And he's going to show you what is to come. He is faithful. So with that, I'm going to say take care and God bless.